This is episode 279 of the Gold Squadron podcast. I'm your host, Dion Morales, and today I'm joined by Marcel, many Z's, Manzano.
Mute button. Yeah, those were supposed to be for Friday when I fell asleep after like round 2. But it actually feels more for like today. I am so tired.
Will, I'll be there for you. Haywood.
Dion said I had to.
Ryan, he misspoke Staniszewski.
Yes, I just was informed about a time that Dion misspoke, and it was quite funny.
I never misspeak, sir. Everything's intentional. As for announcements and news, a couple of things I wanted to point out. First, I got an email from my good friend Andreas Carlson wanting me to shout out the upcoming official Worlds Qualifier coming to Sweden, Gothenburg. That's going to be November 5th and the 6th. That weekend there's the Buffalo event happening. We got the Golden Gate World Qualifier. We got the Swedish World Qualifier as well. So at least 3 X-Wing events that we're going to have to cover after that weekend. So going to be super fun, lots of X-Wing, and of course, if you are located in Europe, head on over to Sweden and get your X-Wing on. Is there like a specific food that like Sweden is known for outside
Swedish
of
meatballs?
I was about to say outside of Swedish meatballs.
Surströmming? That might be Norwegian though.
I don't know.
It's like canned fermented fish. It's real big in that region.
Somebody said IKEA. You can't eat IKEA. I mean, I guess they have food at IKEA. You know what I mean?
They got a restaurant, yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Where
Anyway,
they serve meatballs.
They do. It's kind of on the nose,
Yes.
I think.
Yes, surströmming is from traditional Swedish cuisine.
Delicious. Other announcements and news. We do have an update on Project Save TTT. We got some bad news. We got some good news, but we're going to cover that after we talk to our special guests. And before we do that, remember that our podcast is brought to you by our GSP patrons. Thank you to all of you who have supported. A reminder that we are switching to we're still having 4 quarters worth of swag, but they are shipping twice a year, once in July and once in January to save on shipping, but so that we can still get you that same amount of awesome swag sent to your mailbox. It's just a little bit spaced out. So again, thank you to patrons. If you want to become a part of that group of supporters, head to patreon.com/Gold Squadron, or if you're watching live, Patreon. Thank you. All right, so our special guest, let's head over to him, the champion of Korriban, Andrew Cox.
Hello, everybody.
All right, so Andrew, for people who don't know, have never heard the name, maybe they're newer to the X-Wing community, tell us your X-Wing origin story.
Oh man, that goes a ways back. So I actually remember the first tournament I ever watched was right when I got in, was right after Jump Masters came out, and I believe someone on the podcast won a big tournament with Jump Masters, Marcel?
Some guys.
I won with a party bus.
Yeah. So I think that was like the first thing I ever played, because that was the first tournament I watched. But yeah, it was right after Jump Masters released. I'd been going to like a board game meetup, and a couple of my friends from that introduced me to X-Wing. We went back and like played a couple games at a friend's house, and there was a miniature mart sale, and I went and spent like $300 the next day. I was in love. Like I fell in love and started playing locals, and that, the path turned from locals into store champs into national tournaments into worlds and all the crazy stuff. So yeah, I've been to 3 or 4 worlds now. I don't know. It all runs together, but all the way back in 1.0 is when I started.
Awesome, man. So this weekend we had the Korriban Galactic Qualifiers, the 4th of 5 qualifiers, and I will say winning one of those is not easy, especially when you're playing out of your own time zone. right? A lot of people sometimes don't realize like that was a European time zone event. How'd you handle the stamina part?
Well, we had a game plan of like when to go to sleep and when to wake up, and none of that happened, obviously. I think I went to sleep at like 11 on Friday night and woke up at 2 a.m. I'm East Coast US, so I was up at 2 on um, on Friday or on Saturday, and then tried to go to bed early on. I was trying to stay up on Saturday to go to bed early, so that I would have a normal bed. And nope, I passed out like twice in the middle of Saturday, so I didn't get to sleep until like 11 or midnight, and I got another couple hours of sleep. Woke up at 2:30 on Sunday. It was rough. It was rough. Lots of Red Bull, sponsored by Red Bull.
There it is. There it is. So next I want to ask you about what you play. What was your list that brought you to the championship?
Yeah, so this is the same list that my teammate Travis and I both took to Nova. That's where all this kind of originated. I haven't really played X-Wing in like a couple of years. I took a long break over the pandemic. I came back right kind of when 2.5 had started to get introduced and played a little bit of locally. But this was kind of Nova was my first step back into like actually getting out and competing again. So we did probably like 3-ish weeks of prep before Nova. But yeah, I'm not a list builder at all. I just get really smart people around me that tell me what's good. So credit goes to Chris. Chris Allen's probably the one that gets the most credit that put us on this list. He was like, guys, this is just the best list. It's not even close. And then we just made it better. So yeah, that's kind of where it started.
Awesome. So that ended up being, so that's Kylo Ren in the TIE Whisper, Extreme Maneuvers, Instinctive Aim, Predator, Concussion Missiles, Sensor Scramblers, Malorus with Concussion Missiles, Scorch with Shield Upgrade, and then we have, of course, the 2 bombers. We got Dread with Electro Chaff, Skilled Bombardier, Prox Mines, and then Grudge with Daredevil, Electro Chaff, Proximity Mines, and Engine Upgrade. And like, why? Let me go back. The first Galactic Qualifier was won by the same ships, the same pilots, but different upgrades on all of the ships. Why the shift? I know you say you're not a list builder, but I'm sure at least the changes were probably, I would guess, explained or to you, or maybe you realized some of them.
Yeah, so I'm not the person that's ever going to put together the like shell of a list, but I think my strength comes in like tweaking and finding the right mix of things to fit different play styles. So yeah, I definitely had a big hand in like the final list of upgrades. So the one I feel strongest about is Grudge. I think Daredevil on Grudge is absolutely insane, and anyone not playing Daredevil on Grudge is just wrong. So like Daredevil gives you more options than Skilled Bombardier does. You can literally chaff behind you from where you started. So I think that, along with the bomb options that it gives you and the positioning it gives you on those bomb turns, just does way more than Bombardier will ever do. So I think, yeah, that one is the one I feel strongest about. The rest are a little bit of preference. Shield upgrade on Scorch is just you throw him in there and he survives. I mean, I've had maybe 40% of my games he lives on 1 health, so it's you're just able to throw him in there a little bit, and like the extra offense you get from the other upgrades that you get, it just isn't worth the survivability in my opinion. But that one's close. And then concussion missiles on Malorus. The way that I find that I fly him as kind of a opposite side objective getter, he gets a lot more engagements at range 3. And so those concussion missiles just give him a little bit more offense, where I feel like the cluster missiles really help you in the matchups that you're already winning. Like you don't really have trouble with swarms and ties and stuff, so the cluster missiles don't help as much as the range 3 engages do.
And then what about this extreme maneuvers on Kylo versus the what's the thing people have been saying, shattering shot?
Shattering shot optics. Yeah, so I think that version, the optics version, is the more like straightforward. Like it just sits behind the bombers and kind of like it's just more of a hammer. This Kylo is a little more flexible. I think sensor scramblers is probably a little bit underrated and probably not given the attention that like the changes. I know extreme meters is the big piece, but sensor scramblers does a lot. I can be like a 2 maneuver template away from the other end of the board on round 2. And so it just gives him a lot of opportunities to get behind. He can still sit behind the bombers and just be like a jousting piece, but it gives you a lot more opportunities to flank and just be more flexible. So a lot of opponents are just like, I can't believe you were here on round 2. Just the places he can get with decloak, 5 forward boost is pretty nuts. So just, yeah, extreme maneuvers is just insane. I mean, you saw in the finals, I was able to like one turn, and like do a little loop to get him engaging. So just it gives him a lot more options and doesn't pigeonhole him into doing the same role in every game. So depending on what list you're playing against, what scenario, you can do different things.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So which scenario would you say was your strongest? Which one would you say is the weakest?
So me personally, I feel really comfortable on assault. I think it's the one I've probably practiced the most. It was like the first one we tackled when we were building the list, so it's the one I probably have the most reps on. The list itself is like, we play it because it's really kind of the best jousting list in the game, so chance is pretty good. Like there's no other thing to do. And for all those like medium and big base ships that have a lot of health, which is what we struggle with generally, being able to just get half points on them where we're never really going to kill high health stuff like that, just giving the half point option is really good. So I think those are probably the two best. The list best is probably chance, but I like assault a lot.
All right, and then I know my last question is maybe a bit of a challenge, because I know a lot of times when we prepare for a tournament, we have that one mindset, all right, this is what I'm going to play. But sometimes people are flipper floppers, right? They're like, I got this list, maybe I got this other one. If you could not play First Order at all, originally the question was like, if you couldn't play this list, which then could just morph into a different First Order list, if you couldn't play First Order at all, what maybe faction, or if you want to take even an extra step, what list would you have brought?
Can I have a phone a friend to ask Chris Allen? Because that would be my answer. So like,
he would say Republic, probably. I'm sure.
Yeah, that's probably what he would say. Actually, I think Republic's probably the second best list in the game. Actually, the best version of Republic. So that might be it. So Travis was on like a Vader list that we were looking at before we got onto FO. I'm probably most well known in 2.0 era for Resistance. I was like one of the big first Poe people that played back when it first came out. So I think that's what I played most throughout 2.0. So Resistance is finally good again, I think. So I might have explored there, but I didn't have. This was the first list I got on, and I never got off of it. So there was no other option.
I know exactly what I was gonna do.
I played one game of it, and there was nothing else that was gonna beat this out.
I've had that feeling before too. I get it. Will, Marcel, Ryan, any questions you want to throw towards Andrew?
So
how do I avoid chaff? Sorry, go ahead, Marcel.
All right, well, my question's a little less about the list, so you go first.
How do I avoid being chaffed?
Do they have Daredevil or not? Because one answer is easy and one's not. If I have Daredevil, you don't. There's not a way.
Yeah, I have ships without boost, and you have 2 chaff clouds.
So
one with Daredevil.
If your opponent with FO knows what they're doing, one of your ships is going to get chaffed. Like, there's no way to avoid it, honestly. It's just minimizing the impact on the turn that it happens, and then being able to punish with the other ships coming from different angles. So a lot of what I do in turn 0 and rock placement and objective placement is to create certain lanes to where you can only come through. I try to limit the lanes that you can attack me from in the area that I want to fight in. And so you can only approach me from 2-ish lanes generally, and I have 2 bombers. So as long as I don't leave 3 attack lanes that you can get to me from, I can always cut those off. And then it's about isolating and punishing for that. So
sure.
Yeah,
but it sounds like if I had to spread out to not be chaffed with multiple ships, it would be easier for you to isolate my ships then.
Correct. Yes.
It doesn't sound like that's a win.
Yeah, there's not.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not a good answer.
I think that's
wait for AMG to ban it. I think is the answer.
I mean, that's the problem that these FO bombers pose, right? Is like they can crush ships in mass, but also you leave somebody alone. It's like, oh, you're gonna get a pizza pie. We're gonna toss it in your face. Here you go, Marcel.
Yeah, so I was just gonna ask. You said you took some time off during, at the start of the pandemic, and then you came back. Did you come back with 2.5 or right before 2.5, and then that just happened to coincide with you coming back. Just curious
I
how.
don't remember I don't remember the exact timing around it. I think it was like right as it was dropping. Is like I was hearing like whispers of this happening, and I think 2.5 was like it coming in was the event that like got me to look back into it and then start finding out like, oh, my locals are picking back up. Oh, I can go play. So yeah, I think like 2.5 was the thing that got me to get back in.
To pay attention again.
Yeah. I checked it out and I was like, oh, this is great. I love everything about this. So.
And what was your toughest matchup, or did you lose any games during the tournament?
No, I was 9-0, I think.
I don't go around losing.
What? Losing?
Well,
Losing?
no.
What kind of stuff does that?
I lost at Nova. So funny story though. I played the 2 losses at Nova. I played in this tournament,
The same players,
including one person in one. No, so two the same 2 lists, and then one of them was the same person.
Okay.
And that same person lives like 20 minutes away from me as one of my good friends. So.
Okay. So was the matchup tougher the second time, or did you not? Did you have a game plan going into it?
Yeah, so my first loss at Nova was a Resistance Y-Wing list, and that was something we were aware of, but I didn't get many reps against. So it was also on probably the worst scenario in general, and the worst in that matchup's on Salvage.
Yep.
So yeah, it was just kind of a bad grouping of stuff that got pulled up in the matchup, and then it was still really close. So coming in, I was way better prepared. I had a better game plan that I just off of. And then, yeah, the other game, it was a better scenario for me, and things went my way. It was a crazy round at Nova that happened. I like blocked the Django on a chaff, and he took 0 damage and did like 7 damage back. It was really bad. Yeah.
That's not how that's supposed to go.
Yeah. So like it's very different this game.
So I want this is selfish now. Salvage. I will tell you, I flew the other version of this list, and I for the life of me, I have not won a single salvage mission with this list. What am I doing wrong, Andrew?
Salvage is tough. So like the reason I really like Assault is because your bombers are, so you have your 2 obvious objective guys, or Scorch and Malorus. The bombers are late game objectives, so they're very front loaded in what they contribute into the game. And so they'll do a lot in the first couple of rounds, and generally then they bug out, hopefully at like a few health, and then go contribute by getting objectives at the end. And Salvage is the worst mission to do that, because either the boxes are gone, or it takes them a couple turns to get there, and then they can't boost if they get them, so they're a little more vulnerable. So it's not good. It's not great. So I don't know if there's a good answer. We've tried with setups to put we've kind of positioned the boxes in places where we pull the enemy in a little bit, and we'll bait them to pick them up on the combat turn, which we would rather them do so they have less mods and we can kill them. Or they put them on exit lanes for the bombers to pick up on the way out. But yeah, Salvage is just not a great mission for the list in general.
Ryan?
So I think one thing that I'm pretty sure hasn't been talked about a ton is whether specifically your version of the list or when you tried some of the previous iterations, when you come up across a mirror match, how is that just a cluster bleep of like chaff, or is there like, what is the thought process beyond, if you're looking at the same thing across from you, what are you trying to do against them, and what does your list maybe leverage against the regular version of this list?
Yes, we did a couple mirrors, but this list for some reason isn't very popular, so we didn't spend a lot of time on it because we just thought people wouldn't play it. There wasn't going to be a ton of people playing it, but the big advantage we have in the mirror is our Kylo is just better. So our Kylo is an end game piece once we get through those early chaff rounds as like a flanker or as an ace in the end game is just way better with extreme maneuvers. So it's about getting your Kylo into the end game. But that's the big leverage. Like the Scorch and Malorus are comparable. Like you're going to get similar values out of them. It's not a big difference either way. Our Scorch being a little more survivable is a big deal, because I think the offense that you get from the other version isn't significant enough for 1 health. But yeah, Kylo's the big deal.
That makes sense.
I would disagree. Offensive Scorch is best Scorch, but Health is good too. Can't deny that.
You know what's more offense? An extra round of shooting.
Well, you got me there.
Now, did you actually pull off in the Korriban event the Daredevil 3-bank behind you chaff to anybody?
No, everyone just jousted me, so I didn't really.
It was always forward anyway.
Yeah, it was just always forward.
Did you have some good Daredevil prox mine drops though?
I did have, a lot of those. Okay. Yeah. And honestly, one of the things that Daredevil does really nicely is it leaves you set up better for the second procs in the next turn. Because most of the time you like boost over people, you're kind of out of it if they come past you. Where Daredevil lets you kind of stay in the fight for the next turn. So there's a couple turns I was letting him get procs in 2 rounds in a row, which you can't usually do when you don't Daredevil. When you just normal boost.
And I assume you generally have to think a lot more about when you want to use that Daredevil boost because stress on those bombers is really, really bad, and you're limited to some of your straight maneuvers. If it allows you to leave, and you know there's going to be just a giant scrum, and they're going to be behind you, so you don't need to boost drop for the next turn. It's not too bad, but stressed bomber is usually pretty rough. I mean, did you have some games where you just said, "I'm eating the stress to just get this bomb off, and then I'm okay-ish next turn"?
Yeah. So I mean. Usually I keep Grudge out in space more so that he's more limited or has less limitations on his movement. And the one straight afterwards isn't terrible usually if you want to keep him in. But I mean, one turn of like Daredevil and then 2 turning, like usually can get him out of a lot of arcs. And then like if you're not getting shot, you don't care as much. And then if he drops, like the thing is, if you get one good Daredevil bomb off, usually that's all you need. And the rest of it's just kind of whatever. So there was never any times that it really impacted anything negatively.
So I think it's probably more just making sure not to Daredevil at the wrong time, right? Facing a rock, things.
I mean, if it's a good prox mine, it's still worth it. Honestly, like they have a 3 straight blue, so like Daredeviling and then 3 straighting gets you a decent distance away. So. Give me a good Daredevil prox, and I don't care what else happens.
Right? Like, this is sweet, whatever.
When you have 50% chance to do 3 damage no matter what, it's like, all right, that's if that kills a ship, then I'm in.
Very cool. I'm gonna have to try it out. So, Grudge. I'm just thinking. There's not another bomber that can do that combination. Is it only Grudge?
I think Grudge is the only one with the points to be able to do it. Yeah.
I mean,
you need the engine upgrade to be able to get the Daredevil.
I assume Breach could, because he's got like 18 points of loadout. But he is a 5. Yeah, he's a whole squad point more, though.
Not worth.
Fair enough.
Well, that'll be the question when they take all the FO bombers and make them all 5 points and say now choose. I mean, you still go for Grudge first, right? That's like
I think,
obvious.
Yeah, that ability is just really good, and I too like moving first. I initiative killed so many bombers in the system phase, like where we were gonna bomb each other, but I get to go first and bomb them, and they die, and then they don't get to drop their bomb. I2 is a feature.
Awesome. And anybody in the audience, if you have a question for Andrew, feel free to put them in the chat. And we have our first one right here. So this is from Brit Ottawa R2D2 says, what is the lowest number of ships that Andrew has flown, or is it a case of safety in numbers?
So all time in X-Wing, I was a Nim Miranda player. So 2 is the lowest. I started with Dengar Bosk and then Nim Miranda. But I've played mostly 4 and 5 ship lists, like towards the end of 1.0 into 2.0. I played 4 ship resistance forever, pretty much only in 2.0. So 4 and 5 is where I'm most comfortable.
All right, and you had said that like list building is not necessarily like your biggest strength, right? I know I'm not a list builder at all. What would you say is your biggest strength as an X-Wing player?
So I think this comes back from my Destiny days of like I was always the tweaker, like I was the last step in the prep. So like we would do all the idea formation and then all the testing and everything, and then like the couple days before the tournament, I was always the person that got my last hands on the deck or the list. and made those final like meta calls, like what we thought we were going to see and what was the right tech against all that stuff. So I feel like that's like really where I developed myself playing Destiny. That's people might know me better from Destiny days, but that has kind of transitioned over to X-Wing now that I've kind of developed the same kind of team atmosphere that we had in Destiny over in X-Wing. Yeah, I made a lot of these final calls on this stuff, but a lot of it just comes from like, I think I work really well in a team and I've developed the right relationships with the people that I get along with and work well with. And so, yeah, I mean, massive shout out to everyone that helped me prep for all these events as well.
Matt B asks, what do you think this list's kryptonite is? Does it have a weakness outside of salvage is hard?
Yeah, anything with high health. So like my two hardest games were probably the Resistance Y list that I had to play again. Thankfully, this version had 2 X-Wings. The version I played at Nova had Rey, so that was a little bit harder. And then that 7-ship Empire list with 2 Reapers, that was like an incredibly close game. I think it was either top 8 or top 4. I had to play that. So anything with just a lot of health. Thankfully, that game was on chance, so that's where I was mentioning I was able to half a Reaper, and that made all the difference because I was never going to kill a Reaper.
Right.
But yeah, anything with like high health, the bombs are less effective against. But like these TIE fighters that have 4 health, I just have to do 1 damage and then a bomb kills them. So yeah, high health stuff is definitely tougher.
Fantastic. Will, Ryan, Marcel, do you have any closing questions or thoughts for Andrew?
What do you fly casually? Obviously, you talked about a lot of tournament prep. What's like the like pilot or list that just if you're trying to have some fun, do you pick up?
So anyone that knows me will know the answer to this question is that I don't fly casually.
Fair enough.
I'm an incredibly competitive person, and like I only fly stuff that's good.
Okay. Well, I'll change my question then to what's a pilot or something that you are working on to be competitive?
I mean, so one of my favorites is like, I just like Poe a lot. So like I said, I played the one list that I think in X-Wing I've ever like developed just on my own was that 4-ship Poe list. There's a lot of iterations as they nerfed all my A-Wings out and changed, but yeah, I just have a fondness for Poe. It's like what I played when 2.0 came out for the longest time. I had a lot of success.
You prefer the Poverdrive? Have you been utilizing that?
That is not the version of my Poe that I played. I played much more of a like brawly in your face Poe.
Okay.
But I did play I have played Poverdrive, and it is insane, and I love it. I'm not like a big ace guy, like crazy like repositioning. This Kylo took me a lot of work to feel comfortable with. Thankfully, I have like the Extreme Maneuvers King in my camp to coach me up. But yeah, that Poe is amazing. Yeah, it's really fun to fly.
You can take Daredevil, by the way.
True. He's got some other things he wants to stress for, though. So I don't know. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and let you go, Andrew. Thank you so much for your time. And again, congratulations. I look forward to submitting your name to my plaque company to print on there as the champion of Korriban.
I appreciate it. I look forward to it. Thanks for having me, guys. It was a lot of fun. I don't ever want to wake up at 2 o'clock again, but I look forward to the next one that's like Pacific time zone, right? Like I think it's like 12:30.
Yeah, we have Pacific is Mustafar, and then the finale for everything is Central time zone. So easy.
Oh, I have
you
the
get to
same problem.
sleep in on those.
Well, I have the same problem as Crispy. I might not be able to make the final.
Yes. Well, you know what? Just come stomp at Mustafar then.
Yeah,
When's the final deal?
The final for the Galactic Championship is happening October. I don't want to say the wrong date, so I want to
22nd.
double check.
22nd through the 33rd. It looks like on our schedule.
To the 23rd. The 23rd. All right,
The
sorry.
new 10-day format.
one game a day.
That sounds great. Can we not do
Probably,
like
honestly,
5 and
that
6
might-
game days anymore?
That'll be the next attempt. All right. Well, again, Andrew, thank you so much for your time, my friend, and have a good night. You could just literally just X the window, and that's all you got to do.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
You too. All right. So we did get a couple of questions in the chat, just kind of about the event, kind of X-Wing in general. So I'd like to yeet these over to you guys. So Jeff Sanders asks, GSP, do you think AMG will be keeping an eye on Galaxy's results moving forward? Previously, there wasn't as many in-person events to get their data set. I think he's kind of saying that things like Galaxies may have been something that they were looking at. What do you guys think?
I think they might, but for the most part, you've seen a lot of the same stuff on in person and in Galaxies. A lot of it translates. If you're looking at things that are unique, probably you get those one-offs like the one that Crispy won a couple of weeks ago or a month ago with Scum. But outside of like those one-offs that probably would have a hard time repeating, and there's nothing on there that you're like, oh, this is genuinely broken. You see, most of the stuff that you see in person is the stuff that's good online. Vader 5 TIE fighters, different variations of this list or some of the other ones that were in the top cut. Y-Wing Center Resistance, Ray, all those things that are good online and do well online are the same things that people are flying in person now. And I think there's just a lot more crossover now between before you used to have like the Vassal crowd, and there was like a very specific group of people that played Vassal and then played in person. Now I think if you're looking at a Venn diagram, like the crossover is just much more extreme, where it's probably closer to like 80% of the people that
you're talking about the overlap between competitive players and players who play online.
Yeah,
I feel like that would be almost a full overlap. Yeah,
almost, but not. You get people like like Duncan, ID, and other people that don't, and some people in Europe, I'm pretty sure as well, that only show up for like in person, don't really do the online thing. So, but yeah, again, if you're doing the overlapping circles, I think you get much more in that overlap section than you did before, when it was mainly just Vassal, which means that what you see in person is very similar to what you see online these days.
Yeah, to compound on to that, while AMG might not exactly like pull up the TTT list results or something like that, right? Or like watch the streams live, the influence on the meta, I think, would be recognized by people who are playtesting. They're like, oh man, everyone's talking about chaff clouds and they're winning tournaments. Like, maybe we should filter this new stuff through chaff clouds for a while, or something like that. I'm not a playtester. I don't know their techniques.
You don't know their secrets, Will?
I'm sure they have great secrets, but like that, if they are, what do I say? Mostly what Marcel says. Like, I don't think it's any different than them looking at an in-person tournament to see if those results are something they need to address as well.
I guess maybe the question is that things like the Galactic Championships end up just it gives you more data points, right? So just overall seeing while the trends are the same, that's still information, right? While it's knowing like, oh, okay, we're seeing a lot of the similar thing across the board. Like, we know that obviously some version of this list are both really, really good, and I think that kind of leads into the next question that we had here. This is coming from Benfit. He says, do you think the chaff situation can, or I'm going to add, needs to be fixed, or is it balanced or can it be balanced in a way to reduce the ability for functionality to prevent them from being functionally unavoidable?
So I think there's obviously a lot of levers now that AMG can pull, between the fact that you have ship costs loadout values and slots available. Before any erratas or bans, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they do an errata or ban of some regard, because they are very, very effective. And with the Fombers, it is more of a when, not if you'll get chaffed. But they could, as you mentioned earlier, just increase the value, squad point value of the Fombers of some of them. They could reduce the loadout value. They could get rid of the missile slots. You can't even equip chaff on them, or get rid of one bomb slot and say you either get chaff or you get a bomb, or say reduce the loadout so you can't get chaff and proxmite, but you get maybe chaff and a 4-point bomb, maybe, but you don't get skill bombardier. Like, there's a lot of things you can do to tick it down a little bit before I think you just take the warhammer on that thing and smash it, right? So, because some people have talked about, like, oh yeah, you could errata it to say, like, you can't do any system phase reposition and drop any device anymore for anything in the game. Like, kind of suck. I mean, kind of sucks for the Fomber, because that's like, that seems like to be the thing.
That's its thing, yeah.
So I would like to see it in a state of the game where they don't get everything that they have right now. Just because it does feel like they get they get the chaff, they get the extra range bans with skill bombardier, or in Grudge's case, in Andrew Cox's list, is the availability of Daredevil as an option. And
I mean, what do
still
you-
get prox mines, right? So
What
you
do
get
you-
all that and the best bomb with the Fombers.
So, I mean, another lever they have is just squad points. Like, just put them up to 5, right?
See
so
what happens.
You have less options in the rest of the list.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I totally agree. Like, start pulling levers first before you errata or change
No,
things.
See, I'm in the. Go ahead. But-
I'd say just because we've seen chaff also show up in a lot of other ships across the entirety of X-Wing too. It's not obviously not as effective as on the Fombers, but it's still there. I do think no matter what you do to the specific situation that Grudge and Dread and the Fombers are in with the chaff, I do think chaff at base needs a point value increase on its upgrade cost at minimum.
Yeah, I'm in the camp of there's things that they've identified as a problem and dealt with it. Things like Sabine is basically just gone. It's like we're not going to play around with the points or anything like that. It's just gone. Supernatural reflexes and a bunch of other things that they could have played around with and tried to find that sweet spot. And just said, you know what, we're not going to mess around with that sweet spot. We're just going to make it extended only, not part of standards or things like that. I'm in the camp of kind of like what Nutano was saying, Nutano 1, and what other people have said. And I would be completely fine with there being a rules change or whatever you want to call it, errata rules change or whatever, to doing things that apply immediate results as part of a system phase reposition. So what I mean by that is, like a barrel roll boost, either one of those connected to a shaft cloud, for example. That would be one of them. And I'm saying barrel roll boost because you can do BB-8 and get the barrel roll in there as well. Or a barrel roll boost into a mine, which again, a mine happens immediately. It's an immediate trigger. When it drops, it's done. I would, again, immediate thing. So a bomb is a little bit different. You reposition, you put a bomb, but then there's an opportunity for adjustment by the other, by the rest of the ships that move after that. So some people might like that, some people might not, but I just believe that with the way that things have been changing to try to keep things a little bit more in line and a little bit less of removing the agency things, taking away the things that take away agency and giving auto damage, the auto blaster, changing the ion mechanic to where now you can bank a little bit and have more choices. The bump gives you focus. So if that's the direction that's going, I think that being able to reposition, you set yourself up in the right place, and being able to, this is a great example, being able to Daredevil, either boost or Daredevil and shoot things in any direction, including a bomb in the back that doesn't give you any choice but to take damage is just not. It's not a. It's just that's something that I think belongs in the game. Or at least doesn't belong in the game as it stands now. I think it belonged in the game perfectly when we were in 2.0, because there was a whole bunch of other stuff that was that was kind of wacky like that. But in the version that we are now, that they're trying to get rid of a lot of these. I don't want to call it feels bad, because losing feels bad. Getting shot feels bad. Do you think Andor to throw 6 dice with a range 1 VCX is bad? Like, there's a lot of feels bad, but
so mostly, do you think it's on a different power level? Is that the problem?
I think not necessarily that it's in a different power level, because if it's a power level thing, you can adjust that by modifying the amount of points that it costs, by adjusting what ships it can go on, things like that. I think the part that I'm saying that I don't like is the things of being able to, like, I am here, you are there, and before anything happens, one ship, and it's not just the bombers, the bombers, but it would be any effect that says, before anything happens, I am going to reposition or do something that creates automatic damage or automatic negative impact somewhere in a circle that you don't know where it is, and you have no control over what's going to happen. Because if you have to shoot I've played against, for example, Boba Fett. A lot of people have been putting chaff clouds on Boba Fett, which is really strong. I mean, Boba Fett goes in there, he still gets his rerolls, he doesn't care. He's got less consequences about it. But where there's an expectation of, like, okay, I can approach this in this way and avoid that and come in from the side or delay the engagement or do different things. But when you have the amount of flexibility that you have to be able to basically reposition and put that anywhere on the map, and then same thing with the immediate bombs that saying, like, again, taking this Grudge, for example, you land right in front of it. You're like, well, I can't stay right in front of it because they're going to boost and drop a bomb. Well, I'm going to come in and be at the perfect angle of saying, I'm shooting this ship out of arc, perfect angle, and it says, like, well, you know what? By doing that, you're still going to take automatic damage, a lot of it, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just, I think it goes against the direction that 2.5 has been headed. Again, I normally would not have had an issue with it if other things like intimidation, like supernatural, like a lot of the other things that also allowed you to where there was things that were broken in a, like, oh, this is really good. There was all over the place. It's one of those situations where if everyone's special, nobody is special. But in this thing is like, well, having that now become a thing, or having that be like the only thing that can create auto damage, unavoidable auto damage, regardless of where you are on the board, just feels out of place. So again, that's just my personal take. I know a lot of people will be like 100% against it because anything that has the word ban or errata or anything like that, they're completely against it. They're like, well, this is the way it was written, this is the way it's created. I enjoy doing it. I like doing it to other people.
I do. I really do.
I know, and it's fun when you're doing it, but yeah. And I personally actually haven't played against this list enough, and the times that I've played, I've never really lost against it. But I can completely, like, just seeing it on stream and seeing like other people play against it, and just seeing the complete lack of options that is just doesn't seem enjoyable.
Okay. I think the solution is somewhere in the middle between doing nothing and doing what you're saying, right? It's somewhere in between there. We'll see what they end up doing. I think there has to be some type of change, even if it's as small as raising the cost, because I think we've discovered that they're really good. I don't think they'd ever be banned, though, and my only reason for that is because they put forth the resources of using cardboard space to print, though, like the chaff. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I would second that. It is like a valuable tool in X-Wing right now, as I wouldn't say everybody. A lot of ships' action economy is very high. Whether it's, I mean, the best example is probably Darth Vader, right? 2 mods for defense, and you have 3 mods for offense, basically every turn, right? Or something like, I'm trying to think of something, just like Poe, right? Focus lock every turn, right? As those become very powerful, you'll need something to counter them, right? Normally a debuff mechanic. We've seen a lot of jam be prevalent lately, and of course chaff cloud, because munitions have been very good as well. Proton torpedoes, concussion missiles, anything that can take a lock and has force and a missile slot or something like that, right? Is looking for that very specific action to be effective. So that's, I think if we eliminated chaff out of the game completely, those lists would essentially go unchecked. We'd have to
Rebel Alpha, let's go!
Let's go. I mean, and Rebel Alpha was to address Darth Vader, and Darth Vader was prevalent because ship count went down, right? It just becomes this, that's an evolving meta. But yeah, once you take chaff out of the meta, like, there's nothing stopping me from taking any action that I need to then.
Interesting. All right. Lots of different ways we could look at that. Ryan, did you have something else to say before I move on, good sir? No. Okay.
I'm all good.
So before we hit the other lists, I want to talk. I need to share some bad news, but some possibilities, hopeful things as well. So let me pull up my notes here real quick.
I feel like it's very thematic to say hopeful with Andor coming out in a couple days. That's
right. So as you guys know, as many people in the community know, that I had started the Save TTT initiative, the hope of continuing TTT, picking up the reins. We put together a team of amazing people, but unfortunately, TTT is going to end up going away. And basically, to give you guys the short version, is after going back and forth with the current owner, he essentially came to the decision that it's something that he worked on. It is, I look at coding as art, right? It's his thing that he made, and he decided that it was something that he was okay to not exist anymore, for whatever reason. We did make him a financial offer in a way to show appreciation, being like, hey, this is what we can afford, and essentially he gave us the opportunity to make an offer in the event that we would blow him away, but we offered what I would consider a reasonable amount, that is I'm going to say a responsible amount of money, to basically as more of a thank you more than anything else, and for his time that would be to help us kind of get things going. And I'm not upset with him. It is his product. He can do with it what he wants, but it has bred opportunity. And what is that opportunity? Well, obviously, many X-Wing tournaments had been using TTT. It's been a staple for the Galactic Championships, for Kyber Cup, for many different leagues and things like that. But TTT going away in October doesn't mean, or at the end of October / beginning of November, doesn't mean that that you don't have options. So there are different there's different initiatives basically going on. So the Save TTT team is transforming into let's make a new thing team. And that's like opportunity possibility number one. There are other, tournament softwares that people are developing. I know Longshanks is developing one. If you hadn't heard, Brian from Co-op Print Yards is also working on developing something that is a tournament software as well. And my team of developers are also going to be working on something. So, the possibilities are out there. We are just going to have to basically see over time what people gravitate to, and then a new favorite will end up existing, and it'll be what it'll be. And at the very least, all of these other products and possibilities that end up coming out, they just, they were tools, they were stepping stones that will get us to where we end up. So I just wanted to I wanted to share that for full transparency so that you, the X-Wing community, know what's going on. And we at least have it through the end of the Galactic Championships. And we'll move on from there. All right. Rathos says, I'm super happy to not be in that race. I mean, it's you don't have to be. You got the squad builder. By the way, shout out to Rathos for also picking up the slack on the tournament streaming software. All right, has done some cool updates. Put in the long needed and awaited reset button. Will, have you used the reset button?
No, I haven't been messing around with the builder. I put all that on James. He's technically more savvy than me. But I did see Scott talking about the reset button, which, for his excitement, I can imagine.
Praise be for the reset button. My goodness. Like, I complete tangent. But Steven, a.k.a. Rathos, had asked me, he's like, hey, I'm taking this over. What are features you want? And I mentioned, like, go for this color coding thing. And I just had this, I was, driving one day. And I was like, oh, my God, how have I not said this? And I said, we need a reset button, please. Because how often have you watched a stream game and you see there's like, why is there a score there? That's because previously we would put in new lists, but the objective points from the term before would still be there. Now it's... beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Rathos. Thank you. Let's move on. We got some lists to look at. I want to go ahead and look at the top 8 lists from the Korriban Galactic Championship Qualifier. We already hit the winner. Here is the runner-up, Charles Forrest Latour. Take it, Ryan.
So this ended up being a first order on first order final. We have still a 5-ship first order list with some of the similarities, but no FO bombers. Opted for more Whispers. So let's start with Kylo in the Whisper with Malice, Instinctive Aim, Predator, Concussion Missile, Advanced Optics, Enhanced Jamming Suite. So opting for Malice instead of Shattering Shot, and technically Munitions Failsafe. Nightfall with Fanatical, Prockets, Sensor Scrambler, Enhanced Jamming Suite. 709th Legion Ace, so the generic I-4, who can also take the same loadout of Fanatical, Proton Rockets, Sensor Scrambler, Jamming Suite. Then you have Malrus with the Fanatical Cluster Missiles, and Scorch with Fanatical, Predator, Advanced Optics. So I'd be curious to know what kind of matchups Charles had leading up to the final. What I think as Andrew Cox alluded to, with sensor scramblers, that upgrade can be really good as a tool actually baiting some chaff. If someone tries to go and chaff a ship that has sensor scramblers that still has the cloak available to them, and they get to choose if they want to decloak after knowing where the chaff is, they have a couple ways around. It's obviously really good at getting a ship across the board, such as the Whisper, that does have the ability to decloak and then 5 straight and then boost. The fun trick with these procketed Whispers is if you already have the bullseye arc on someone and you're like, I get to procket this thing, you get to focus jam, and that jam bullseye range 2 is the same as the procket that you're going to have. So focus jam the ship is very akin to the FTC and missile that like Jarek Yeager and the Resistance can do, to the trick of jamming something and doing a really big damaging munition, except this one's even more dangerous, or at least it's a much higher ceiling. So yeah, it's definitely the more, here's more Whispers instead of any Fombers. I'd be, like I said, if I ever got a chance to chat with Charles, or if you want to do a respond to GSP in Discord, I'd be curious to know some of your matchups and how you felt against some of the powerhouses in the field and why you chose to go the Whispers.
Yeah, depending on how things go, let's see, what do we got going? We have Cray Cup this weekend. We might be able to see if Charles is available to have him on. I'd love to talk about triple Whispers. I'd love it.
There has been a few showings, both I think in person, I think in Europe, and also online, where there have been people who've gone almost entire lists with the Whispers, and then some just majority Whispers, and especially using these fanatical procket ships and just saying, I'm going to find something and yeet it off the board and then just be nuisances of jamming.
Love it. Love it. Marcel, let's take a look at Greg Squire and his top 4 performance.
Yep, Greg. And I think we're going to see a number of similar things here, and this is similar to what I took to Nova plus what I wanted to fly this weekend if I was able to stay awake, which is a use on a lot of the TIE fighters and then not Vader. And again, we'll see a number of these different variations where it's the best TIE fighters out there plus not, something that is not Vader. So in this case, we've got Iden with the, I think at this point, traditional elusive and ion cannon. Moff Gideon, which again, in my opinion, is we'll probably go back to the ranking next week on the other ones. This is my S tier. I mean, these two, Iden and Moff, are my 3-point S tiers for sure. Moff with the cluster missiles, overtuned modulators, and targeting computers. So he basically acting as a much better version of Malrus. ISB Jingoist ×2 with overtuned modulators. Wampa with elusive, and then he opted for his 2 4-pointers to be Captain Pharaoh and the TIE Reaper with Ruthless, the Child, and targeting computer. And great carrier for the Child because of the defensive ability, and then Vizier with Emperor Palpatine to give all those TIE fighters, I would assume, a defensive focus. My guess would be that Palpatine was used defensively 95% of the time. And super solid list, essentially an 8-ship list when you count Iden being ×2 ships, and 8 shots per turn, up to 8 shots per turn with those cluster missiles. So super solid list. If you're not flying Moff Gideon in the Empire, just like Andrew Cox said, if you're not putting Daredevil on Grudge, you're wrong. If you're not flying Moff in the Empire, you're wrong. That is a 3-pointer. That is a game changer. Even if you fly him with no upgrades and he's just circling the board at range 3, saying you're focusing your evade and your rerolls and your elusive and your Kanan trying to, no, actually Kanan still works, but everything else, null void, just roll your dice and pray for natties. So
It's a good idea. I like it. All right. Now we go from a bunch of ships to a lot less ships. We'll go ahead and talk about Nathaniel Blair and his top 4 performance.
Okay, Nathaniel Blair has brought the Scum and Villainy. This is 2 Fire Sprays and the Razor Crest. Starts with Emon, who is the bomb dropper extraordinaire. His bombs of choice are concussion bombs and seismic charges. Has Maul, of course. You need a force point and the Andrasta title to give him those bombs. Kashka Frost allows rerolls when the target's stressed. It's on offense and defense. Has Notorious, of course. Sokotano, Deadman Switch. The Marauder and Veteran Tail Gunner. So could double shoot, gets passive rerolls on offense and defense all the time. It's what you want to see. It's just tiny little baby. It's baby Boba Fett out there, but really. And then here's the real star of the show. Q9 has the Child, the Mandalorian, Greedo, Contraband, Electronic Baffle, and the Razor Crest. So the combination is that we were what did you call it? The typewriter? Q9 is just the typewriter out there in parachute pants. He's gonna stop.
Hammer time.
Exactly. He's going to stop. He's going to pop Contraband Cybernetics. Depending on if he flipped Razor Crest to reveal a false transponder codes or not, he could jam with his action, or he could reinforce with the Mandalorian if he's under some trouble. Then has Q9's ability to either take a strain or barrel roll while you do an advanced maneuver. So you end up with reinforce, strain, calculate, and 2 force. And then, which is I really liked here, Nathaniel Blair finding a way to deal with all the stress you take as the ST-70 assault ship, and dealing with its just awful dial, at least for clearance stress. You only have your straight maneuvers, but there's so many red maneuvers you'd like to do. So we saw him, I think, in every match. In one match, I think the top 4 match, we were just like, yeah, more baffles. Like, oh, he took 2 damage. That's 2 less baffles he could do.
We were sad.
We were sad because he kept doing it. He just was like, well, I'm going to stop, and then I'll barrel roll, and then I'm going to throw that stress off with electronic baffle in the in phase. At the next round, stop, do a little typewriter over to the other way, and you're either. I really like that variety you can actually get. He actually has a lot of different actions you can take. You can go full turtle and just take his the calculate and the reinforce, or you can start arc dodging with your high initiative, start doing more barrel rolls and get around people. It really does a lot. The only thing it's held back by is only the 1 Contraband. But again, that's where Electronic Baffle is trying to help that out. This might be the best showing of Baffle. I'm not sure if Baffle's ever got to a final table. I'm trying to think now. Probably.
Not in a while.
No, for shame, though. Love the list. For shame, though. Using Marauder on Kashka Frost. She stole that ship right out from underneath of Cass Scarlet. And that Pirate Queen's going to come get you, Kashka. You better look out.
My theme. All right. We'll keep it going here. So Stephen Weiland, we're cracked into the top 8 now, also brought an Imperial list. Here we have Moff Gideon. He got the memo from Marcel. Not wrong. With Iden, Jingo Wampa, and then instead of the Reapers, here we have Rear Admiral Sharanu in that Decimator with discipline, Darth Vader, Minister Tua to get some reinforces while being damaged, seismic charges, agile gunner to be able to switch out that turret as need be during the end phase, and then Dauntlet so that when you smash people in the face with your ship and you overlap them, you can still have the possibility to do some actions.
This is real quick, and this is kind of where I was alluding to earlier. Moff, while it has the potential to put a really good gun out there, you can put a concussion missile with targeting computer and false transponder code or something like that to make them like hit kind of hard, or cluster missiles. He just opted to say, I'm going to go elusive, cloaking device, and always guarantee a token, because my gun doesn't matter. My ability is the only thing that matters in this game. And that's why I was saying, like, this ship, the flexibility and the complete wreckage that it can cause opponents is just nuts. That this should not be a 4-pointer.
The
a 3-pointer.
The only way to stop a Moff is another Moff.
Is a dead Moff. The only good Moff is a dead Moff.
I do think it's really hilarious to see discipline on a decimator and just the chance to barrel with it. It sounds hilarious.
Do a barrel roll. Well, something else hilarious. Let's take a look at this Rebel list, Ryan, from Nicholas God in the top 8.
You say a Rebel list with Nicholas God? What's happening?
I know.
It be like a scum list?
It should be. Where's Tirani Calda? We gotta
that's extended.
I know,
Ooh,
but
too soon, Dion. Too soon.
We don't need to see it ever again. It's fine. All right, so this one was surprising to see once I saw the results. So we have a Rebel 4-ship list. And not only do we have a VCX, we have plural VCXs. We have 2. We have Chopper, we have Callus. The other 2 ships, Aaron Kraken and Arvel Crinid. So Chopper in the VCX opted for dorsal turret, the Child, Fen Rao crew, and veteran turret gunner. And then we have Callus, who takes dorsal turret, Saw Gerrera, and veteran turret gunner. And then you have Aaron Kraken with elusive plasma torpedoes, and then Arvel Crinid with the Crackshot Predator combo. So I think one of the interesting things that this list can do is Aaron Kraken providing that additional action for one of the 2 VCXs in the engagement phase. And so whether they decide to rotate a turret to make sure the veteran turret gunner will have a shot, whether they opt for a lock if they already reinforced, if they opt for a focus, if they opt for whatever action they want to do, they can take a red version of that action. But as long as Fen Rao is in range, the Fen Rao crew on Chopper is in range to be active, once that ship engages, they're going to dump that stress anyway. So I think that's actually a really good combination, is the Fen Rao crew in a list with an Aaron Kraken trigger. Especially with the VCXs who don't end up being stressed often or at all, really, because they want to find those lanes to allow them to do 4Ks or get to areas to where they can do whatever maneuver they can do to get that 4 dice primary shot, point at as many things as possible. It's kind of a thing of, hey, I've seen 2 decimators lists. What about 2 VCXs? I don't have like the bow tie turret, but I do have a 4-die primary, which is scary, especially when you have stuff like Saw, who turns into all crits. When you have stuff like the Child on Chopper, and when you put the Child on Chopper, it's the ship you end up wanting to shoot more, which might be correct because Fen Rao crew is on there as well. But that means Callus gets to keep shooting you and keep nicking its health a little bit to use Saw Gerrera if it wants. It also means that Chopper wants to get in really close to you, and it can trigger its effect to say, if you bump into me, there's no good reason for you to take your stress focus, because once engagement starts, as long as you're still in range 0 of me, I'm going to jam you anyway with Chopper's ability. Which range 0 4 dice attack is nothing to sneeze at. Even if it can't mod, if you can't either, because Chopper said you're getting jammed, and if you're not a Force user, it's a very sad day. Very scary range 0. So I think it's a really cool list. I love VCXs because they bruise, they say don't be here, and they heard stuff very well. He's just getting them to the shots they want, and Nicholas just said, "I'm bringing 2."
Yeah, and a little bit of insight for this player and kind of his matchups. He lost to Greg Squire in the top 8. But so that was this one of the other top 4 competitors.
I can see that being a tough list because it's got Iden in there, and there's a lot of ships.
But he lost to him in the cut. He actually played. They had played the same exact matchup, same scenario and players in Swiss, and Nicholas won that game 23-3.
Oh, geez.
He came in with the VCX, and that veteran turret gunner was like, dead TIE fighter, dead TIE fighter, dead TIE fighter. Only 3 because I didn't trigger one time. And just came in blasting.
So I just started blasting.
That's right. So,
well, I mean, that is a very adept or a very akin thing to what we would call Curse of the Swiss.
Yep.
It's extremely hard to beat a player twice, let alone actually the same exact scenario where they can learn from that specific matchup in that specific scenario. What not to do next time.
Yeah. All right. Marcel, let's take a look at our next top 8 competitor, George Berrios.
Jorge Berrios. Jorge's flying Separatist Alliance with Jango Fett, Notorious, Palpatine, Proximity Mines, False Transponder Codes, Slave 1, and Boba Fett Gunner. That's the Boba Fett Gunner, right? General Grievous with Outmaneuver, Impervium, and Solus 1. Bombardment Drone Hyena with a Proximity Mine, Delayed Fuses, and Landing Struts. DFS 081 Droid with Discord Missiles, Independent Calculations, and Grappling Struts. And then a Separatist Drone with Discord, Grappling, and Independent Calculations as well. So 5-ship list. You've got basically, you've got 2 heavy hitters and then 3 very, you got 3 contributors, I would call them. Like, the bombers, you can't ignore them because a bomb in the face, literally in the face, being able to throw it to the front is going to hurt. DFS being able to either throw those Discord missiles, capture objectives. They do extremely well in King of the Hill, I forgot what it's called.
Assault.
Just being able to park on a rock and say 2 points, 2 points, 2 points, and in 3 turns, they've tripled their squad value. And then same thing with the other drone at 2 points. So same with the Imperial TIE fighters, and you just want them to get their 2 points worth, and super easy for them to get their values worth. So a lot of value here. And so it's a lot of value. Of course, it has a downside, which is the droids and the bombers can pop pretty quickly. And Jango, as good as Jango is, Jango can also. I think probably Jango is one of the fire sprays that has the potential to die relatively. Like some games, it just. Like, hey, where'd he go?
Right. His from the defensiveness of fire spray. So obviously Boba on top, right? Scum Boba. Koshka Frost is up there because of the number of red tokens that are around.
Zam is up there.
Right, Zam because of because of her ability. I would say like Jango is better than Iman because Jango is I6. Right, but yeah, I see what you're saying there.
No, and also Iman tends to, I would even say it's comparable to Iman because Iman tends to show you his backside, which you don't want to pursue. So you're much
Speak
you're
for
much,
yourself.
You're much more comfortable chasing down a Jango than knowing you're gonna need several proximity mines and several other bombs trying to
It
chase
depends on how
Iman.
much open space. It's both sides, right? Because you're comparing Iman that's more front loaded. You know that the bombs are there and they can exist, and if you end up in that spot, that's your fault. But also on the Iman player for putting you in like putting Iman in the right spot for you to be in that accidental position or mistake ridden position. If Django's got open area, having to guess where he's going if he's not stressed and have to deal with the fact that he can choose to boost at I6 is its own puzzle. You have to try and like work your way around and corner him and try and hurt him. So it's game state dependent. And that palp crew though can really limit what you can do when you get in tight with him too.
All right. Remy here is flying the Galactic Empire. Has the, as predicted, Jingo Wampa. Has chosen elusive for Wampa, a cloaking device, and overtuned modulators for the Jingoists, respectively. Has Captain Oiken as a decimator with Ruthless, Death Troopers, Fifth Brother, and Dauntless. Death Troopers are the crew that prevent you from clearing stress when you are range 0 to 1 of Oiken. So he likes to keep ships close and prevent them from clearing stress so they can't leave. Then Morna Key as well with Ruthless, Darth Vader, 000, and BT-1. What do I want to say? The combination of the Death Troopers not allowing you to take green tokens because you can't clear stress means that Darth Vader and the Jingoist abilities are going to trigger every single time on you. You're going to get strained. You're going to take automatic damage. I had a chance to fly this to Nova. I think this is, upgrade for upgrade what I flew at Nova. And this is a secret objective style list. Great in assault with those 2 large bases. Great in salvage because you have 3 extra ships. I did air quotations there because it's really it's a double Desi list, but you have to bring 3 extra ships who can just go out and just look for those objectives, whether it's scramble or salvage, when they need those extra actions, because the Decimators are too busy reinforcing or taking target locks or something like that to normally bother with those action-intensive objectives.
Awesome. So that was our top 8. If you want to get more information about those Galaxies results, you can go over to our website, goldsquadronpodcast.com/Galaxies results. You have what the bracket was as well, the faction breakdown, the champion and runner-up lists. And you can see all of our Galactic Championship history going through the all the way to the 2020 season. And we're going to be expanding this section a little bit so that we can actually have the full rosters in there available for people to look at as well. So, a couple of last things before we wrap it up for the night. We did have a question from a viewer, and I also want to talk a little bit about some of the Andor trailers that have been coming out, because I know there's at least one thing I really want to talk about when it comes to. I would love to know your thoughts on how this would come to X-Wing. But anyway, Jedi 1 Alex basically asked, so for some speculation. They want some speculation. They said, points change when new packs come out, ? Or do you think they'll end up staying the same? So to simplify that question, do you believe that AMG will take the release of the Battle of Yavin as an opportunity to balance or change points? Floor is open.
They kind of have to, don't they? Because they've got new stuff coming in, and they've got to adjust what exists based on what's coming in new, and they're already needing to update the PDFs and all of that. So I think just they have to, even if they weren't planning on it, or they don't feel they need to. They feel that it's in a good spot, which, they have to. I just don't see how they don't. It's like I'll put it. It's like when you're a mechanic and you've got to break open. You got to change out something underneath where you got to take the whole engine out to change like a mounting bracket, and you're not going to change out a washer that's connected to it or something like that. Like, if you're already doing all the work of having to republish everything, having to get everything reapproved by Disney and all that, or LucasArts or whoever does the approving, might as well just do everything else, because you're going to have to do it again at some point.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. The reason Luke has a very specific loadout number is that it currently allows him to take instinctive aim, proton torpedoes, and R2-D2, so he can fly trench run Luke. But now that there is an official trench run Luke, we could see changes to the Red 5 Luke, which could be post, right? He was Red 5 for quite a while, I'm not sure if they called him Red 5 in Empire Strikes Back, right? I believe so.
In Empire? I don't know.
Did they use call signs, or were they just calling each other by name? I guess he called Dak, but like he was like talking to some dude in his ship. So
I think in the Snowspeeders they all referred to each other for the call signs for Rogue.
Oh, it was.
So
Rogue.
they were already Rogue Squadron by then, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So I've got
interesting.
A question in the same realm, but with a little bit more tinfoil hat. So, I think it's no secret that, they point out the stuff that they don't want you to play thematically. Hello, generics. Do you guys think that they will purposely make the ships that have a standard loadout option, like the Luke, like the Han Solo, make the build your own X-wing version less good purposely to make the standard loadout ones more attractive and make you play those, like, because they're already kind of forcing us to play named pilots, and they're forcing us to play like the named pilots that have like the most I think appeal, most non-X-wing player appeal. Like, I want to play the Vader. Vader's good. I want to play Luke. Luke's good.
Sure. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it's pretty obvious, like, what is good versus like what is bad. There's like, big gap in the middle, right, where things are like, okay, like flyable, right? But like, it's a pretty easy lever to pull, just like from good to bad really fast, right? I mean, you give Luke 4 loadout points, and all of a sudden, like, is like not even a consideration compared to his standard loadout, I'll call it. The standard loadout Luke. So, I mean, and obviously they want to kind of promote the new scenario pack. So maybe a competitive pilot or 2 from that pack would be enough to like maybe sell a couple extra copies. So I wouldn't see it as crazy that they would push those scenario quick builds to the front line of the competitive scene. how they want to do that is going to be interesting to me. Do they make them like a whole squad point cheaper, or do they raise the price of the old ones?
Or do they just, to your point, lower the loadout value? Because I can see, again, not putting a nefarious, intent behind their actions, but I can see it just from a talking to their bosses standpoint, being like, hey, the stuff that we created, pat in the back, it just won a tournament.
It's like, oh, people are flying it. People seem to really like it.
And it's winning tournaments, and it's on the table everywhere.
Right,
people are buying, it's flying off the shelf.
I don't think we're naive enough to realize that like new stuff. Very few new things go. What do I say? Go down in points.
Yeah, very few dead on arrival.
Most things go up in points the longer it's been out. So, I mean, I don't know if that's, again, like exactly intentional, but, they want to see the new stuff do well. So I could see it. I don't think that they're gonna, Ryan, do you think that they're gonna change things not related to quick builds? Like anything in Separatist, anything like that?
Oh, it's tough to say because this is the first one we're getting, right? And they said after, I believe they said after the most recent points update that kind of came a little bit before, or also included the Z95, Clone Z95, and the Rogue Starfighter, that anything after that point would not be big wholesale changes. Most of them, if anything, would be tweaks. It should be small shifts after that, not large ones, at least for the foreseeable future. But they didn't say when. They didn't say how often. So, like I believe was mentioned, if they say, all right, we got this coming out, we're going to have to release points for it, whether we put it on a separate PDF for standardized pilots or whether they just put it in a section with the rest of the ship chassis that would match it for the points PDFs, they could just say, you know what, we got to update this. Let's take a quick pass on anything that we believe is egregious on either end of the spectrum, right? Like, for as much as we would like to see less effect on the game as the FO, the Fombers carrying chaff and prox mines, there's on the other end of the spectrum where the TIE brutes are just abysmal right now. And it'd be nice if the cool ship that is the TIE brute, at least physically looks cool to me, and has the rotating gun. Like, yeah, you got the opposable stuff, man. You got to make that stuff good. So that there's both ends of the spectrum. They could attack a little bit, right? Or they could just say, there's just something egregious we need to take care of now. We're just going to take care of this one thing, and we're going to call it good. We're not going to worry about, boosting anything up. We're going to just take that power curve that something's going up with, like, a little higher and everything else, just like rein it in a little bit with the same curve everything else is at. Or they just, this is not the time for it. We're just doing the standardized thing. So we'll see.
This is a bit of a tangent, but speaking of Battle of Yavin, have they come out and said that, like, you need to fly the standardized ships in that scenario? Or that's, like, recommended or anything like that?
I think the rule set gives you instructions that include the standardized ones, but we haven't seen at least that's what they've said. So
okay,
TBD, right, I think is the answer.
I don't
to that
know
question.
If it's a spoiler or not, but Han Solo coming in halfway through the fight. I know.
What?
I'm sorry to ruin the movie for everybody, but and also the scenario. But I assume if I don't own a Falcon, can I even play this scenario then? Can that just be Dash or Hera coming in halfway through the battle? AMG's traditionally like do whatever you need to do kind of people, right. But I don't know if they heard anything official. What do you think? Did you hear anything, Ryan? Okay.
Yeah, not sure on that. My assumption would be is it's designed around the ships that the pack comes out with, since the scenario itself, as far as we're aware, is designed just for the enjoyment of playing the thematic trench run itself and them translating it to the game of X-Wing. So beyond that point, I would assume it's self-contained design. So they only have to worry about everything that's in the pack, no other outside forces, and how they would affect the scenario.
Mm-hmm. All right, friends. Well, with that, if you don't want to hear any potential spoilers for Andor, this is your time to walk away. There's an opportunity, and your opportunity is now over. My friends, what is something that you would like to see either in the show that could maybe bounce into X-Wing, or something that you've seen in a trailer where you're like, I need that in my life? Go.
I got 2 minutes left on the trailer, so I'll join back in a second.
All right.
I'm watching it now.
Sounds good.
I'm gonna take like a weird detour.
Detour, please.
Not away from the topic, but I'm gonna tell you what I don't want to see. And I actually saw a relevant, whether it was a news quote or article posting about either the director, the writer, whoever, people who helped create Andor.
Mm-hmm.
One of their main focuses, and I appreciate this, is they don't want to just shove fan service or cameo stuff into it to get people happy about Andor. They want it to, like Rogue One, minus some of the Vader stuff, which Vader stuff's still really cool in Rogue One. But they want it to be something that can everything has a true good purpose to service the story around Andor, and everything related to building him up and his story within the Rebel Alliance, before the Rebel Alliance, all these things that we're going to be learning about, how some of the early Rebel Alliance interactions with the Imperials, and like a lot of what the trailers have shown, all this political stuff that we've never really seen before, how Coruscant is now. I don't need Vader in that again. I don't need like Skywalker's here again, like somehow, some way type. Yeah, I know he wouldn't be, but you know what I mean? Like, I think the most I expect to see from like original movie cast is like Leia and Mon Mothma, but like she didn't have like a big role. She was just in episode 6. So I want this to kind of stand alone on its thing, and stay within the Star Wars universe, so that we can enjoy some of the new characters that we are on this ride with Andor, basically.
Yep. Yeah, I think this show has the possibility to be the most movie-esque version of Star Wars that we've had in a show form. Because even though, love Mandalorian, Boba Fett was a fun ride, but they're definitely built to be TV shows versus this. Yeah. Even just from the trailers, I'm like, this is a movie.
I mean, they meant to shoot it like Rogue One. It was on purpose. They had to get the look and the feel similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was probably my only complaint of Obi-Wan, was it was constantly reminding me that this is just a TV show. Like, the epic battle it means nothing, so it's not really a spoiler. But the epic battle is in like a very real world-esque industrial place. I don't know if it's a refinery or a quarry or what they were doing there. Probably a quarry, I guess. But like it was very real. Like they didn't need to make that set, right? Mm-hmm. And it felt a lot like that. Though, like once they got away from the main city, things did not feel very Star Warsy, because I have to assume the low budget, they couldn't make their own sets, and but they did want to be outside, so they didn't really use the screen or whatever, what they call it.
The hi gonk.
Gonking up here.
That thing is called the volume.
Yes. But no, everything I've seen from Andor looks like it could have just been a 3-part movie if they wanted to.
Marcel, thoughts? Marcel, I think we actually the people cannot hear you because
I think they're called dual laser turrets.
I think you left. Hold on, because you left and came back, and it changes the URL of your video stream. There you go.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, no, they were. Can they hear me now?
they can hear you now. Marcel asked, "Did I just see twin laser turrets?" And the answer is
Yeah, I mean,
probably not.
I mean, that looked very twin laser turret, and that was like a 360 arc. I mean, that looked like a very 360 arc twin laser turret to me.
I don't know.
It looked-
I screamed a little bit, like I had like a audible yelp when that happened in the trailer. That the ship spinning with that laser. I think were we having that conversation on Saturday, Will? Where
we
it
were
was
talking
just
about
like
they looked like the LATs ball cannon lasers were more of a solid beam than like a single blast.
lightsaber lasers.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe just a space version of the solid green beam lasers from the ball turrets on the lat.
Yeah. Exactly. Just in red, because we're more extreme. Empire ship, but actually a rebel ship, because I think that guy's a spy. But we'll find out in 2 days.
I think green means like higher
Quality or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Better Tabana gas and like red lasers. That's why the rebels shoot red lasers, because they're not as good for whatever reason.
Not as
I don't really
spicy.
understand how Tabana gas equals lasers, but whatever.
Sure.
It also powers their hyperdrives. I'm not really sure. It's just a miracle catch-all.
Tabana gas. It runs Star Wars. Star Wars runs on Tabana gas.
It's the Star Wars diesel, apparently. It'll just do anything. But yeah, you're asking about like a wish list?
Yeah. What is something you want to see?
Ooh. Trying to think of something that's not like a fan service or weird cameo or something. Because I do think that like if they want to be like taken seriously, they can't. I really like She-Hulk, but they can't have just like a star of the week come in and
It's a different type of show. It has a different purpose, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's like a serial law drama. This is like a very serious like war movie or a spy movie. Really,
Right.
It's not war yet. This is guerrilla warfare, spies, and so like that is. Kind of what I'm looking for. It might be like a weird request, but like I kind of want to see like evil Cassian, where like, but the character who changes him is actually K2SO. Like in K2SO, like I'm imagining he's being like Cassian's being pulled by Skarsgård in a very like ruthless and like manner, but like at some point along the adventure, K2SO could come bring some like a comedy element and like takes Cassian out of that like real like hardcore war mind frame, and then kind of opens him up. But like that was one of the most like shocking scenes at the beginning of Rogue One is when Cassian's like very politely and like very heartfelt talking to this guy. He's like, I want to help you. We're all in the rebellion. And the guy's like, oh, we're going to get caught. He's like, I'm not going to get caught. But like, sorry, dude. So I got a broken hand or leg or whatever. But like, I got things to do, man. Peace.
Yep.
Like that, it was brutal. And Jin kind of does it in that movie where like she like convinces him that like, this is like a war, but like if we're no better than the enemy, what are we really fighting for?
Right.
So I kind of want to see that, like the beginning of that spectrum, when he's super. Not sure of a great way to describe it, but other than like ruthless,
Yeah. I mean that. Go ahead, Marcel.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to say mine, but after you.
So for me, what I want to see, we already know that Forrest Whitaker's in it as Saw Gerrera. We know that Saw Gerrera ends up being called an extremist in the rebellion. If we're going to see him, what I kind of expect is to see Cassian participating in some type of mission with the partisans. right? Because they are an early part of the rebellion, but they're shunned because they're too extreme. But it's a great opportunity to see that group like at their strongest. Like we get to see it a little bit if you got to play Jedi Fallen Order. You get to meet the partisans and meet Saw Gerrera while they're while they're doing their thing. But in cinema, this is going to be our first chance to see that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like they just seem like some like backwoods like rednecks just hanging out in some cave. You know what I mean? Just like oh yeah, let's drag you out to our cave. We're playing some 3-dimensional hollow chess or Dezerk. It was like we're playing real Dezerk, painting my miniatures myself, and like, but they don't seem like intimidating or scary or like actually like terrorists. You just like hear that they do stuff. You never actually see. Well, I guess they did attack the Empire in the street, but at that point, anybody attacking the Empire is not really out of place.
So, what I would like to see is actually what I would like to not see. I would be super happy if in the entire season 1, at least season 1, I don't see a single lightsaber. I don't want to see a lightsaber. I don't want to see Jedi. They can talk about them, they can reference them, but I don't want this to become a wait for the Luke to pop up or something like that. Just no Jedi, and I would love to see Gritty. Maybe about 2 months ago or 3 months ago, Disney finally gave like a password for parental control. Like you have to put in your 4-digit to see things that are above PG-13 or whatever it is. I would love for this show to skirt the edge of that. Like, of course it's Star Wars, so you don't want to, take it away from kids, but I want it to like really hover on that edge of like, this is not, kids can watch it, but there's shows that kids can watch, but they don't quite understand like the deeper meaning or the deeper, there's like something deeper in there for a more mature mind. It doesn't have to be blatant. It doesn't have to be gruesome. It can just be implied, and somebody who's older and more mature can be like, I know what they're referencing, and I know, and it goes back into into the reality and the reality of war. Every time I think of Fallout, the game Fallout 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, where I forgot how it always starts, but it always starts something like war is ugly or something like that. Like
war never changes.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, you got it. Like that type of, showing the impact of war, not just the impact of war of people dying, but the impact of war on the soul, on the, war changes people, and it obviously changes Cassian Andor. And William was talking about it earlier, but I want to see that. I want to see that psychological impact that it has on Cassian. On I just want a platoon Star Wars.
Right. Yeah. I mean, not that extreme, I think Clone Wars did like serious war topics while not showing blood and guts and gore and, other more mature things that you couldn't put in a children's show. Like, I think you could still have that, but like not, have like heads getting blown off or whatever.
You don't need to go full Game of Thrones on it.
No.
You could just imply it. It could be implied, and it could be, you can see the impact without seeing the, what caused that impact. Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah. They line a bunch of guys up for a firing squad. Like, you don't have to show the dude actually getting shot, but like, because like you can just, it's scarier to imagine it, right? I've always thought the scarier things in movies and TV shows is what they don't show you. Like Jaws, right? They don't show Jaws, the shark, for so long, and that makes them scarier.
Mm-hmm. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Somebody, first-time caller, had mentioned maybe, you had said no lightsabers, no Jedi. I doubt it, but also no Mandalorians. Just kind of separating that. I mean, because we are so Sabine is around, right? I'm trying to get my timing. Sabine's around. Ahsoka is technically around.
Mm-hmm. Hera and is Cannon's around?
Kanan. Yeah. Well, maybe not. Depends.
Depends exactly how far back we're going.
Right. I mean, but pretty close. I mean, the timeline to me is that Assault on Chopper Base is very close to Rogue One and A New Hope. Mm-hmm. Assault on Chopper Base was like, no, that was at the end of season 4, wasn't it? Because then they spent the whole last season at Yavin Base, though, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure end of season 3 was Assault on Chopper Base.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Then yeah, they spent the whole season at Yavin Base, which could have only been like a year, maybe up to 4 years before A New Hope. But I thought those were pretty close together. So that means that all the stuff that Sabine did for Mandalore, against Garsax and against all of the House Wren and things like that, that would have all happened pretty much before Cassian then.
Yeah, so those are some possibilities of, I know we're talking about not necessarily having fan service, but those are some characters that might end up intersecting. I honestly would not be surprised by some type of Ahsoka insert, just because she's getting her own show. Like that wouldn't be surprising to me.
They did cast Sabine and Ezra as well. So they could have announced those because those actors would want to, say that they're in, in Cassian.
Yeah, and I will also say that I would be okay if they don't show up as well. Like I think it's okay because the Star Wars is a big war, and compartmentalizing it is okay. I think giving it some separation.
Do you have like the most random cameo they could have in Cassian?
Dr.
Avazan?
Yes.
Not Afra,
Avazan. Just
another. He's in Rogue One though.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It'd be random because he just like shows up again, like the same thing. I got the death sentence on 8 moons. Just
goes and says the exact same thing.
I mean, you're probably going to get some of the top brass from.
Would they do Tarkin again? Would they CG Tarkin a second time?
I'm not talking
Would
about.
They get Krennic back maybe?
I was saying top brass from the Rebels, like some of the Mon Mothma,
Akbar,
yeah. I mean, they could put in people like that. I mean, it's their timeline, and it's when they're, there's not at least on film, there's not a whole lot about them. Maybe they're the ones that are pointing Cassian and his crew, or they're the ones that are directing, like, go do this, go do that.
The antagonists.
But, again, I'd much rather just. I'd like this to be its own little thing. That's part of what I liked about.
But I don't think it's gonna be little. It's got 13 episodes, if I saw the schedule right.
It's 13 episodes, and we start off with 3. They're giving us the first 3 for free, and they're putting us on that drip after that.
That's hours and hours of content, though, because they're like about an hour, 40 minutes to an hour, something like that. They're not like 20-minute episodes or anything like that, right? Have we gotten? I'll look up the run times.
I don't know what the run times are.
I didn't think it was going to be like a half-hour show or nothing like that. So like these are like each episode's going to be like half a movie. That's a lot of content to go through.
I'm in. Whatever it is, I'm go. It's going to be a good time.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is. Let's have a good time. All right. Well, that's it for us tonight here at GSP. Before we let you go, we want to let you know that we do have 2 brand new t-shirt designs in the shop. If you want a t-shirt, it's your opportunity to scoop it up. One of them being the Oops All Blanks shirt, inspired by a conversation that we had. Get it in many different colors, whatever floats your boat. We also have the Heroic Squadron, Pursuit Squadron, and one of my personal favorites, the Death Pizza t-shirt. I personally like it in navy blue. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be smart, be safe. Gold Squadron out.